Hello, good afternoon. Welcome to News Hour Live on GBC News, your news and governance channel. My name is Shirley Annan. Effective today, March 28, 2022, fully vaccinated travelers coming to Ghana will not take PCR tests from their countries of origin to allow them entry into the Kotoka International Airport, where they will also not be tested for COVID-19 on arrival. However, President Akufo-Addo explains that citizens and foreign residents in Ghana who are not fully vaccinated would need to provide a negative PCR test result of not more than 48 hours and undergo an antigen test upon arrival at the Kotoka International Airport, where they will be offered vaccination. In his address on Sunday, President Akufo-Addo said the establishment of the COVID-19 infrastructure at the Kotoka International Airport by Frontier Healthcare Services Limited at its own cost has been key to the country's ability to limit successfully the importation of the virus into Ghana through the airport. However, the testing regime at Ghana's airport, which cost $150 for a COVID-19 test, has been criticized by majority in Parliament, describing it as the fleecing and rip-off of Ghanaians and international travelers, and called for its cancellation. From today, Monday, March 28, the wearing of nose mask is no longer mandatory. President Akufo-Addo says outdoor functions, entertainment events, churches, mosques and funerals can resume at full capacity as long as all persons at these events are fully vaccinated. However, hand-washing practices and social distancing protocols still remain in force.
Monday, 28th March. The wearing of face masks is no longer mandatory. I encourage all of you, though, to continue to maintain enhanced hand hygiene practices and avoid overcrowded gatherings. All in-person activities, such as those that take place in churches, mosques, conferences, workshops, private parties and events, cinemas and theaters, may resume at full capacity as long as the audience and all participants are fully vaccinated. Hand washing and hand sanitizing points should be made available at these venues. Outdoor functions at sporting events, entertainment spots, political rallies and funerals may resume at full capacity, again, as long as all persons at those events are fully vaccinated.
The Akufo-Addo administration says it is working to vaccinate 20 million Ghanaians by June 2022 to achieve herd immunity. As of March 25, 2022, the country had 72 active cases of COVID-19 with over 13 million vaccine doses administered after experiencing 4 waves of the COVID-19 pandemic. Currently, all COVID-19 treatment centers across the country are empty.
Friday, 25th March 2022, the total number of active cases stood at 72. There are no severely or critically ill persons. Our COVID-19 treatment centers are empty, and the 4th wave appears to be over. In addition to these very low reported cases is the considerable improvement in the availability and uptake of vaccines by the population. Government is determined to use all means to increase the deployment of vaccination across the country to achieve our target of vaccinating some 20 million Ghanaians by June. To my fellow Ghanaians who have not received the jab, I urge you to take it.
So on the address, President Akufo-Addo said the government wants to achieve self-sufficiency in vaccine production to meet future regional, national and continental needs for health security. To this end, government has committed $25 million to develop the country's domestic vaccine production capability.
Ghana, Rwanda and Senegal, in partnership with the German biotechnology company BioNTech SE, are venturing into vaccine development and manufacturing, with the three countries determined to become vaccine manufacturing hubs in sub-Saharan Africa. We want to achieve self-sufficiency in vaccine production to meet national, regional and continental needs for health security. We shall not then, in the future, be at the mercy of foreign vaccine nationalism and geopolitics. Last year, I set up a vaccine manufacturing committee under the chairmanship of the world-renowned Ghanaian scientist, Professor Kwabena Frimpong-Boakye, which will soon be transformed by Act of Parliament into the National Vaccine Institute.
Still on news, are following relentless pressure on the government to reopen the country's land borders to facilitate the free flow of persons, goods and services across borders with ECOWAS member states. The government has heeded to the calls after 2 years of closure. During the 28th address on the measures taken against the Sunday, President Akufo-Addo said the closure of the country's borders was necessary to help win the fight against the virus.
As from tomorrow, Monday, the 28th March, all land and sea borders will be opened. Fully vaccinated travelers will be allowed entry through the land and sea borders without a negative PCR test result from the country of origin. Citizens and foreign residents in Ghana who are not fully vaccinated will have to produce a negative 48-hour PCR test result and will be offered vaccination on arrival. Fully vaccinated travelers into Ghana will not take PCR tests from the country of embarkation to allow them entry into the country through the KIA and will not take on arrival. Citizens and foreign residents in Ghana who are not fully vaccinated would, however, need to provide a negative PCR test result of not more than 48 hours. They will undergo an antigen test upon arrival at KIA and will be offered vaccination there. Ghana's foreign missions have been instructed to make vaccination a requirement for visa acquisition. It is worth noting that the establishment of the COVID-19 testing infrastructure at the Kotoka International Airport by Frontier Healthcare Services Limited at its own cost has been key to our ability to limit successfully the importation of the virus into Ghana through the airport. The efficacy of the testing regime at KIA has won global admiration and has been applauded by all those who have undergone its testing.
Now, following the announcement of the reopening of the country's land borders, GBC News' regional correspondents have visited the borders to assess how economic activities are bouncing back after 2 years of inactivity. Let's speak to our northern regional correspondent, Mutala Issa, who is on the line. Mutala, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Now, the president announced the reopening of the borders yesterday. What has been the reactions of some people you've spoken with?
There's excitement in the air. Let me first of all indicate that we are reporting on the Tatale border, which connects the northern side of Ghana to Togo, and then the Chache border, which connects the Savannah region, that's the western side of northern Ghana. And there's excitement in these communities, Chache and Tatale, because these are major entry points, and the communities trade among themselves. They send goods and services and bring in goods and services. And with the closure of the borders, it's significantly limited trading between the three countries, if I may put it that way. Now, with the reopening, it is expected that business activities will pick up, and it will go a long way to boost socioeconomic activities in northern Ghana.
Mr. have you visited, you speak about excitement among residents and communities. How is business bouncing back? Have they started their business along those corridors?
For now, things are quite slow because even though Ghana has opened, the other countries, Togo and the Ivory Coast, have not done same. And so it is a bit, when you are crossing, you are asked to go through the COVID protocols on the other side of the border, and so things appear to be slow for now. But it is expected that in the coming days, things will pick up, and business flow will be boosted in these areas.
Now, let's talk about COVID-19 and then maybe cross-border infections. How are authorities along the border ensuring that we do not see ourselves back at where we had that peak months ago?
It is a critical situation for those of us in the north, because you quite remember when this happened, the immigration service did not only police our borders, they also came inland to set up some checkpoints where they were repatriating foreigners out of the country, those who came in without going through the necessary or the right or approved borders. But the borders have been open. The other borders have also been thrown open now. The movements on the Ghanaian side is big, but when you go to the other side of the border with the other countries, it is not as easy to cross over as it is on our side of the border.
All right, thank you very much. Anything else you may want us to know? We've lost Mutala Isa, but he was speaking about the opening of the borders on the northern side of Ghana. You're still watching News Hour live on GBC News. We have more news coming up. Let's now speak to our Western Regional Correspondent, Desmond Kujo, who is also on the western side of Ghana with more updates. Desmond, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Now, how has been the reaction after the president's announcement of the land borders?
Well, I can tell you that the reaction has been big. People are happy that the borders are open and that they're going to do business. Lot of bounce back, because if you take Enugu, the western border, for instance, it's a very vibrant town, lots of business activities. But the closure of the border brought all the businesses to a standstill. Transportation came to a standstill. Those doing buying and selling came to a standstill. All those who were doing cross-border trade also came to a standstill. So the reopening of the border is a good news. But other problem is like every cruise side of the border has not been opened. So it is difficult for people to cross the border to do a business. This morning, the MC for tomorrow had a meeting with the security services comprising the Ghana Immigration Service, Customs Division of the Ghana Revenue Authority, the Port of another involved in doing the activities at the place. But they are ready to do business, open the border, but they are waiting for their foreign counterparts to do same. But from there, business activity will continue.
Now, how did the closure affect businesses in these border towns?
Well, let me give you a simple scenario. We have these two shops at the border, and they relied on travelers from Côte d'Ivoire to Ghana, Ghana to Côte d'Ivoire. This business all came to a standstill because nobody was traveling, nobody was buying. We also have this long-distance bus drivers who also commute from Côte d'Ivoire through Enugu to Accra, to other parts of the country. All the buses were there right now. You see all the buses are packed. They've not been working for some time now. We also have the haulage trucks who haul goods cargo from Côte d'Ivoire to the longer countries like Niger and other places. The business. So the closure really affected business. And you know the illegal collection of the Ghana custom duties of the TRA also reaching a lot of revenue for the state. The closure also affected their revenue. So the impact is widespread from residents, traders, and the state.
All right, thank you very much. Desmond Kujo is our Western Regional Correspondent. Let's now go to the Volta region and speak to Jones and Lima. Jones, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Now, when the borders were closed, one person who was mostly in the news was the MP for K2 South, who was always talking about the impact of the closure of the borders on the residents in that area. The borders have been opened now. How is the reaction of the people you've spoken to in Aflao?
Yeah, I must say that people are happy about the reopening of the border in the Aflao entry. However, I must add that the opening, because it's the first day, the human factor is not as heavy as one of the state. There's also this situation where now, when you are moving to Togo, because we have opened our, it is easier on our part to get to Togo. But when you get to the Togo side, you are faced with the challenge because the Togolese have not opened their side to the border. So what is that? There will be that engagement, and then later you'll be asked to pay between 6 Ghana cedis and 10 Ghana cedis before you are allowed entry into Togo.
Now, so tell us again how the closure of the borders in Aflao especially.
Yeah, it is. I mean, those who were used to using the border in their economic activities in the form of services or even to cross to go and then attend to other economic livelihoods, because of the closure, you were curtailed and you were not allowed to move either to and through from the country. So in a way, it really did affect the economic activities of people living within the Aflao enclave.
All right, thank you very much. We'd expect more from that part of the country in our subsequent bulletins. We are speaking now to Peter Adengre from the Upper East region. He is also our correspondent. Peter, good afternoon. Hello, Peter, good afternoon. If you can hear me, after the president announced the reopening of the borders, what has been the reaction of some of the people you've spoken with, especially who trade along the border?
All right. So currently I'm in the Aga border now, in the Upper East region, that is the Katsina and Kana West district. When I got to Paga here, I realized that yes, a lot of vehicles have been allowed to pass through the border. Remember that some few days back we're here and we communicated with some of the drivers and the business women who are just around the Paga border here doing it. And they told us all the negative things that they are experiencing as far as the closure is concerned. But today I interacted with some of the women and there was that of excitement written on the faces of the women, expressing their gratitude to the president for opening the border. Certainly, I am standing in front of the customs division of the Ghana Revenue Authority, the office block. And a lot of the vehicles, let me say, the trailer vehicles going into Burkina Faso are going in, where motorbikes, canoe drivers and whole lot were also moving. That is also where they are allowed to pass within the Paga border. And so the atmosphere here, there's some kind of excitement within on the faces of the people at the Paga border here. So
you report of brisk activities on the border. How did the closure of the border affect businesses in these towns?
Right. So most of them, you realize that there's that tomatoes, pepper, onions, that into. But they told me that around that time, when the Paga border was closed, they were not getting people coming in from Burkina Faso to trade with them. They were not given the opportunity to travel outside through the Burkina border to go and then also exchange goods and services with the people. And so it was really having a toll in their lives as far as their living condition was concerned. We spoke to some people who deal in this drinks, craft beer and all those things. And they told us that yes, a lot of people used to come from the further side of the border to come and trade here, but because of the closure, they were not experiencing that, and so the sales were so low. But now they are optimistic that the sales will take up, and they will also contribute to the economy of Ghana, whereas by way of paying taxes and a whole lot of things.
How are authorities ensuring that we do not get cross-border infections and lower the risk of COVID infections again in the country?
Right. So a lot of the customs officers are here. They are everywhere. I can just see a lot of them outside, and some of them inside the office. There is that kind of the president mentioned that there should be that hand washing should still be enforced. When I was entering the customs department, I realized that there was that facility still in force, and so that is what the people are saying. Even though some of the restrictions have been relaxed, that is, the wearing of nose masks have been relaxed, and they are supposed to ensure that they wash their hands whenever they are coming into the facility to transact business with them. And so that is what the security personnel here are doing. Everything remains well within the border and that of our Burkina Faso.
Thank you very much, Peter. Peter Adengre is our Upper East Regional Correspondent. Stolen News. The Member of Parliament for Ketu South, Madam Jifa Gumashi, has appealed to President Akufo-Addo to prevail on Ghana's neighbors to also open their land borders after Ghana opened its borders on Monday. On GTV Breakfast, Madam Gumashi said the reopening of their plough borders was very welcome news to her constituents whose livelihoods depend greatly on trading activities at the border.
The borders are open and looking forward that they can pick up the pieces. I mean, they are resilient people, you know. To think that 2 years of their lives have been taken away and to get back where they left off and to see how they can spend for themselves, it's truly. And I'm hoping that the business community that used to take advantage of the borders will come so that the ordinary ones who fry yams and sell banana and groundnuts can also be able to, you know, earn a living once again. So they're really excited about it.
Meanwhile, the NDC Member of Parliament for Ningo Prampram, Mr. Sam George, suggested that government recapitalizes people whose businesses collapsed due to the closure of the land borders for the past 2 years. According to Mr. Sam George, the mere reopening of the borders is not enough.
For 2 years and over, the president has closed the borders, especially the border in Aflao. And he has destroyed the fabric, the economic fabric of that part of our country. You just open the borders and expect that people who were trading, you know, the micro economy, the small economy, the tabletop traders, those who kept the micro economy of the border towns running, you've kept them, you've killed the businesses for 2 years. Most of them have lost their capital. So you can't just open the borders and expect them to pick it up from where they used to be. If the capital is gone, people need to recapitalize. If the man 2 years late is now opening the border, we won't celebrate him. He deserves no credit. Absolutely no.
You're still watching News Live on GBC News. Still on the President's address, we glean the thoughts of a member of the COVID-19 treatment team at the Greater Accra Regional Hospital, Dr. Emmanuel Adepadapo, on the announcement that the wearing of nose masks is no longer mandatory. Hello, good afternoon, Doctor.
Hello, good afternoon.
What do you make of the president's address last night, especially regarding the wearing of nose mask and social gatherings?
Well, I will say that the announcement of the president has come at a time that, you know, the businesses want to be open once again, and life must return to normal, but not as normal as the pre-COVID era. Now we can confidently say that COVID has become endemic, and therefore the strictness of the wearing of the face mask can no longer hold, especially when you are in open areas. Many of our markets are open. The weather now is a bit warm, and therefore we are not having many cases across the nation. However, I will still want to say that everybody who will be going to a closed environment like the churches and mosques, who are going to be there for long periods, should make sure that the vulnerable among them, like the aged, still put on the mask when they are there, so that when they close from the service and come to the open, then they can take it off. Also, now that the borders are opened, what we must be careful about is that many people are also going to be coming into the country around this time. China, for instance, has also closed some borders because the cases are going up once again. Shanghai, for instance, is closed.
Yeah.
So we also need to still be careful. And many of the essential service workers, like immigration, who are going to be at our ports of entry to receive these people coming in, should at point in time be in the mask when dealing with the returnees. But generally, we can not say that strictly we should put on the mask when we are in public places. So I'll say that the president is right, and as and when we review the cases again, we will be able to tell the public if we should go back or not. But for now, the wearing of the mask is no longer mandatory.
By your assessment, do you think we are really out of the woods yet?
Well, we are not out of the woods, but cases, in fact, the incidence is not as it used to be. We are recording single digits or no cases for weeks now. As of today, on the national dashboard, we just have one case, which we do not even necessarily need to treat in an isolation center. So I will say that going forward, we should begin to treat COVID as any of the diseases that demand medical attention, not as we used to have it when we didn't know how to manage it. This time we know better, we can manage COVID better, and even if we have spikes, the preparedness is adequate to isolate, to follow up.
Now, Doctor, what are the prevailing COVID situations at the various treatment centers as of today?
Oh, now most of the treatment centers have been closed, and you know, many of the doctors have been reintegrated into mainstream practice. However, the emergency triage centers are still open. We are still doing the triaging according to the protocol, and we are still isolating in the holding centers every suspected case that we see. If COVID is negative, then we give them to the medical team to continue management. But if COVID is positive, we treat as we used to treat, but not strictly, because they are no longer critical cases as we used to have in the beginning of the first, second, and third spike.
Now, with the reopening of the borders, do you know of any structures at the land borders to ensure that the country is not thrown back into the higher infections we're getting when COVID started?
Well, what we are advocating at the ports of entry is to strictly keep to the checking of the temperatures, for instance, and also making sure that if people who are recovering or have symptoms of fever, test negative before they get into our system. Now we are also depending on the immunization card or the vaccination card. You should be fully vaccinated. Other the test before you get into the country. That is still continuing. And that is the way I believe that we are going to be able to put the returnees in check. So we are going to go strictly by fully vaccinated cards. If you are not vaccinated, then you should accept vaccination at the port of entry, or you should isolate yourself for a number of days until you are declared, out of the woods before you come into the country. I believe that if we continue this way, we will be able to keep the cases under control.
Now, before you go, what would you advise as a precautionary measure for us to stay safe, especially now that we are all supposed to take off our nose masks?
Yes, so everyone who has not gotten vaccinated yet, please get vaccinated. And if you have had the vaccination, please take the booster, especially those who are vulnerable, aged, 50 and above. You should take the booster dose. And if you have not been vaccinated yet, please get vaccinated. Because now that everything seems to be normal, wearing the mask is no longer mandatory, people are going to be tempted to go back to the pre-COVID era. But still, the hand washing at corporate organizations, malls, stores, banking halls, and everywhere, and churches should still continue until we declare COVID completely vanquished.
We've been speaking to Dr. Emmanuel Adepadapo. He's a member of the COVID-19 treatment team at the Greater Accra region. He's still live on GBC News. On Thursday, March 24, 2022, the Finance Minister, Mr. Ken Ofori-Atta, announced strategies government had adopted to address the country's recent economic challenges. This was after weeks of speculation about how the government was going to deal with the situation. Panelists on GBC News' current affairs program Talking Point examined the interventions announced by the Finance Minister.
The President, speaking through the Finance Minister, outlined four main measures. 1, expenditure containment measures. 2, fuel price control measures. 3, revenue measures, and then financing and also that's the currency measures. On the expenditure measures, about salary cut for ministers and CEOs of state enterprises, 30%. That is signaling, that is commitment of the government enough, and that is the hook that my brother is asking for. It is evident on that particular presentation of the minister, but he's refusing to see that particular on the face of the presentation that the president cutting his salary and that of his ministers. And they are asking members of parliament. I remember he led the chat and said that they will not contribute a dime. Even a kubo. They will not contribute a kubo to this particular. What is the commitment? The Council of State is actually committed to their salary or monthly allowance by 20%. Members of parliament who are saying they are representing the people, who are saying we are in difficult time, would have been expected to do same. That is one of the measures. 2, the president has actually put on his belt by asking the fuel coupons to his appointees be cut down by 50%. You cannot say that that is not the president showing, empathizing with Ghanaians in this particular difficult situation. The president has actually containment measure that we are going to review the energy sector. I've mentioned about the legacy debt. With that particular review and changing of the power purchase agreement from to energy conversion agreement, we are going to save this country $12 billion.
If you look at the cutting of the fuel prices, those are not the profits that government makes. If you look at it, and you have a lot of experts in the area who have spoken strongly against this, and you have the Minister for Information who was asking as members of Parliament that if we could also cut. You see, you can't ask people to tighten their belts when they check and you don't even have belt hooks, let alone belt. The same president who is telling us because of these challenges we want us to do ABCD is asking us to give him 2 billion addition for government machinery. The same president who is telling us our belt and cut our expenditure, that same president is saying that give me 2,000 more people to work under government machinery. The same president who is telling us we should tighten our belt is doing nothing about the fraud that is going on at the airport with regard to Frontier Health. You can't tell us that we should tighten our belts when you are not demonstrating sincerity in tightening the belt, because until they put belt hooks on their trousers, I don't think that anybody should give a...
At a public lecture on the myth holding Africa's development held in Accra, Ghanaians were urged to adopt the positive aspects of the foreign culture while learning to appreciate the Ghanaian culture as well as promoting it on international platform. The public lecture, which is an annual series, was organized by the Rotary Club of Accra Ridge. A report by Emmanuel Adepadapo.
The Rotary Club of Accra Ridge continued to make a difference communities in Ghana. The club has undertaken so many projects, including the annual Blood Donors Award, blood donation exercise with a national blood bank, donation of computers, and setting up of libraries for deprived schools, medical outreaches and water and sanitation, as well as the provision of clean water for 5 communities in Obom, the South District of the Greater Accra region. Currently, the Rotary Club of Accra is constructing a maternity unit at the Malamata Government Clinic. The Mamprobi Methodist Kindergarten is also being refurbished.
13 years, yes, we have done some great stuff. Could we have done more? I sincerely think so. I think we could have done a lot more. So, as we move forward, let's charge ourselves to do more impactful projects. Projects that will leave us even more fulfilled than we are feeling today.
As part of its 13th anniversary, the club organized an annual public lecture tagged "The Myths Holding Back Africa's Development." The executive chairman of AB and David Africa, Mr. David Ofosudote, said that the young generation should be trained morally and socially with the requisite skills to become visionary leaders.
There are some good aspects of our culture, like the way we train our children, the way we greet from right to left, the way we wear our clothes. I am all for it, and I wish we don't have to wear jackets so that we can promote our textiles. But it doesn't mean that the culture which allowed us to bury chiefs with heads should be retained. Otherwise, that is culture also. Or that we should be carrying people and call it culture and invite people to watch us every year when we are underdeveloped. It's not culture for me. It's a conscious effort of a society. And I think that foreign influence, good as it is, we can adopt, we reject. And therefore, the adoption of foreign influence cannot explain why we are not developing.
On 24th March 2009, the Rotary Club of Accra Ridge received its charter from Rotary International, increasing the number of Rotary clubs in Ghana to 21 and 12 in the capital, Accra. For GBC News, Emmanuel Adepadapo reporting.
There's more to come on news. Please stay.
Today he has been extra sweet, and the way he looks at me.
I have done everything by the book. It's on. Hey, but I have to get some condoms, Charlie.
Using a condom will protect you and your partner from HIV, STIs, and unplanned pregnancy. Condoms are an effective way for protection against HIV infection. Don't take risks. Use a condom every time. Always come prepared.
This advert is brought to you by the Ghana AIDS Commission and Ghana Health Service.
The groom is sick.
What?
Malaria.
Malaria?
All land borders and sea borders have been opened as on Monday, March 28, 2022. This, according to President Akufo-Addo, follows a comprehensive review of a raft of measures geared towards the fight against COVID-19. To ascertain the impacts of the opening of the borders on the economy, we have on the line an economist, Mr. Eric Shebafo, to help us understand this whole issue. Good afternoon, sir.
Yeah, good afternoon, madam.
In your opinion, how did the closure of the borders affect the growth of the Ghanaian economy?
Well, thank you very much for such a great question, Gina. Yes, this is how some of us were looking for, that by God's grace it has really come to pass. Because every building or successful economy comes with free trade at the continental as it is. So if we have the kind of products that we do produce, and our sister countries like Nigeria, Togo, Cote d'Ivoire, Burkina, and other neighboring countries that are also true. So when it comes to exchange of goods and services, it makes the economy a buoyancy or economy also grow. First of all, Ghana has now recorded double-digit inflation, that is 15.7%, which is quite not good. But the opening of the border, it tells us that inflation is also going to go down because there are too much goods in the system. And then when there's too much goods in the system, the prices of the goods and services also go down. So inflation is also one. And two, a lot of people also go to the bank to seek for credit assistance or credit in order to boost their businesses. And now, by the grace of God, looking at the Bank of increase it to 17%, of which will also boost the liquidity crisis to the government and also to the BOG as a whole. So it tells you that there's going to be an inflow and outflow of cash in the banking sector to also grow. And thirdly, there's also going to be a job. There's going to be a job creation. Because if you look at, if I import goods from Nigeria or Togo or Burkina Faso or Cote d'Ivoire, when I bring it to the country, you see that it will create a long chain of jobs. People will come, the wholesalers will come, the retailers will come, and also the consumptions will come. So you see that there will be a blockchain of jobs into the system. And also, frankly, we also see that the GDP growth also in the country will also expand, will also grow. Because as there is productions going on in the country, because now one factory, there are so many raw materials that we are turning them into a finished product in the country. So when there is factory manufacturing and production going on in the country, it will automatically boost the GDP growth in the country. Last but not the least, in the economy we have three main kinds of it. We have the nominal GDP, the real GDP, and the purchasing power GDP. And I will tackle it from the purchasing power GDP. Could we do that now? People are now, there's pressure on the dollar, which has brought a huge deficit of our currency or depreciation of our currency. So now people are going to use a substitute good for the neighboring country. So if I said I'm importing oil and other commodities outside the country or maybe from the Western world with a huge amount of money, therefore now I'm not going to change my money into the oil again, the dollar again. I may rather change it to CFA or other African currencies in order to purchase the goods and services.
Listening to you, I would want to believe that you would agree that the reopening of the borders has been long overdue.
Come again?
I said I would want to agree with you, listening to you, that the reopening of the borders has been long overdue. Is that what you believe in?
Yes, for some of us, it's well overdue. Because if you look at Europe, where they were massively hit by the economy, what we realize that opening of border is one of the breaking ways of the economy to grow. So we should have even been open because Ghana, through the we were able to curb the COVID-19. They were able to control it, and the systems were being in place. And you remember that Ghana was in place, one of the first countries that we managed the COVID. So we were even expecting it to even have come any this year, like January or end of January or maybe February. But at this time, that is coming. By then, I'm not a scientist, so government is being advised by the COVID-19 management team. So as it has come now, let's go. But I know within the twinkle of an eye, for the shortest period, the economy will take that to the shape due to the opening of the border.
Thank you very much. Mr. Eric Chebafo is an economist and he's been speaking on the reopening of the border. Let's now go for the Interbank and Commodities rate for today.
The filth in Accra are choked with garbage. The streets are a jumble of filth. The beauty of the serene beaches is marred with human feces and plastics as many defecate in the open. Residents are up in arms when the situation gets out of hand.
Because of these litters, you can't even stand there for even a minute. As we speak here, if the mosquitoes even refuse to breathe on it.
Partners in sanitation suggest alternative policy interventions.
Landfilling is not the way forward. We are recommending treatment facilities.
But in all of this, have we made gains in the sector?
How can you have a people who have a lot of dignity and still practicing open defecation?
The task facing Ghana to achieve SDG Goal 6 on sanitation for all is Herculean and riddled with equally complicated hurdles. Join us every Thursday on Wash Hour from 4:05 p.m. to 5 p.m. as we seek to put these issues and more in perspective. Watch a repeat on Fridays from 1 to 2 p.m. and on Sundays 9:30 p.m. to 10:30 p.m. It is our duty to keep our surroundings clean and free from disease.